Hi, I'm John McAuliffe, Chief Marketing Officer of VFM Leonardo, and welcome to the VTV channel. VTV is a weekly series of interviews with industry experts on the latest topics in travel e-business, and specifically online merchandising practices that help hoteliers extract more value out of their online presence. As always, we encourage you to email us at vtv@vfmleonardo.com to suggest topics that you would like us to cover in future episodes. Today, I'm joined by Francois Mourier, founder and CEO of RevPAR Guru. RevPAR Guru's Yield Dynamic Price Engine is an integrated revenue management and pricing solution for the hotel industry. Jean-Francois's background is in finance, pricing, and technology and revenue management. Jean-Francois, thank you and welcome to VTV.
Thank you very much, John.
Jean-Francois, we're lucky enough to have you for 3 episodes, over the course of which we're going to be talking about how hotels can optimize their conversions by differentiating themselves online. And specifically, we're going to look at 3 different factors that hoteliers can look towards to help differentiate themselves. And those are page positioning on OTAs, content, and third, reviews. Today's topic and today's discussion is going to be on how hoteliers can optimize their conversions online using OTAs. Certainly, our audience doesn't need me to tell them that travel shoppers do extensive research online before they shop or before they purchase travel. And they do fairly extensive research on OTAs. The issue is that with thousands and thousands of hotels listed, hoteliers need to take steps to ensure that their hotel stands out from the rest. We've had many inquiries here at VTV asking us about page position and how hoteliers can get to the top page position on OTAs. Jean-Francois, from your experience, how much does a hotel's page position on OTAs impact conversion? And is being number 1 the most profitable in terms of bookings?
Well, to answer the question simply is that, the success of Google that we've seen so far for the years and their financial success is based on page positioning. In other words, on the internet, if you're visible, you sell. It's a very simple fact, a very simple and very powerful aspect of your sales. Now, on OTAs, you have to see them as Googles, but for hotels. So, in other words, the way that Expedia and Orbitz and Travelocity and all these different OTAs, the way that consumers use it is basically like a Google. And the way that you're positioned on the page will affect your sales. In other words, if you're visible on that page, it will affect your sales. In more detail, most OTAs mimic themselves. That means that they will have 25 hotels per page, and that typically, normally, if you're on the first and second page, you will sell. If you're on the third page, you're not going to sell so much. You're going to sell very little, in fact. Another factor is that 20% of the sales will happen via the picks or the chosen marketing strategy of the different OTAs. Expedia uses picks over other OTAs use other preferences. But about 20% of the sales are basically picks. The rest of the 80% consumers, what they're looking for is the best bang for their money. In other words, they will classify by price. And by classifying by price, they will then select also maybe the star rating. And that's what 80% of the consumers will do. And then, depending on your page positioning, on that page, you will have more or less sales. Now, typically, if you're on the top of the first page, you sell a lot. But it doesn't mean that, you have to be always on the top of the first page. By this, I mean, by being on the top of the first page, you're going to have a very low price, which is not going to be great for your RevPAR. So what you can do is kind of a blend. And what consumers tend to do is that they look at the top of the first page, and actually they do not scroll down all the way down to the first page, all the way down on the first page. but rather skip, the bottom part of the first page and go and look at the top of a second page. And there, if you classify by price, you still can have a lot of sales being on the top of a second page and yet have a much higher price than if you're on the top of a first page. I hope this makes sense.
Yeah, it sounds, it's interesting because what you're talking about is one of the ways of optimizing your revenue is perhaps being a little bit more strategic about the positioning on the pages rather than just gravitating towards the first listing on the first page.
Absolutely. I mean, to go in greater detail, what you have to bear in mind is that if you're able to blend in, the right amount of page positioning, that's one factor. The other factor is that you should try to get into a good relationship, as good a relationship with your OTAs, being Expedia and Orbitz, in order to also, maximize your positioning on the picks. In more detail, if you're looking into the pricing, portion of things, you will have, let's say you have 1 million consumers looking at Expedia, and you have out of this million, you have a certain percentage that will select the default setting of Expedia, which is all stars. So there you have to calculate your blended position with the all stars. But if you're a 3-star, you're going to be a lot, further down the page than if you're a 1-star, obviously, because you're a 3-star, you're going to be more expensive. And then if you filter now 3 stars, you're going to have, a different positioning than if you filter 2 stars. So you have to figure out every single day in your specific location, how many people will shop and will go by the default route, or will go and shop for the 2 stars, or will shop for the 4 stars. More specifically, what we see here in Miami, and Miami is just one example, in Miami Beach, in the summer, people are very, very price sensitive. So the majority of the people will look at 2 stars and up. Whereas in the summer, or in the winter here, from basically December until March, you will have a lot more people which will select 3 stars and up or 4 stars and up, if you see what I'm saying. The page positioning will differ depending on the seasons as well. So the strategy in calculating your optimal page positioning is actually very time consuming if you do it by hand.
It sounds like a lot of parameters that you would have to look at in order to have a better understanding of where your hotel is going to show up on the pages. So as a hotelier, what types of things can I do to optimize the page position that I have on these OTAs?
Well, like I said before, you have to, if you do it, if you're doing this by hand, then you're going to have the revenue manager who basically will rate shop all of the different websites. And doing it by hand will be very time consuming. You have different softwares out there that are available, and tools that are available whereby, different revenue managers can actually have the work kind of chewed up for them. And I'm not going to cite them because there's so many of them, but you have tools and technologies out there that will help you in looking at, what basically the price of your different hotels at any given point in time.
Right, but it also sounds, as I said before from yourself, that just trying to get the top page position by lowering your price to the lowest possible one is not the best strategy. And in fact,
it's not the best strategy.
The best way to optimize your revenue is to understand where it is that consumers go from page 1 to page 2 and position yourself in the place that's most appropriate for you.
That's right. I mean, it's not. It's kind of difficult for me to give you an answer and a perfect answer because it kind of depends. It depends on the season, and it depends on how many rooms you have to sell, and it depends on the force of the demand on that particular day. So you might want to go on top of page 1 if you're desperate and you definitely need to sell your rooms, and your hotel is basically sitting empty. But if you're like most hotels, if you have a little bit of, rooms sold already, then you want to try to push for ADR. Now, if you push for ADR, if you only look at your occupancy and not the rest of the competition, meaning that, if you don't know your page positioning, then you could be thinking, okay, I'm 90% full. I'm going to increase my price because people are just coming. And what's happening there is that you're not taking care of your page positioning, meaning that your sales could be stuck at 90% occupancy and you're not going to sell a single more room, when you could have actually sold an additional 10% of your inventory at a fairly good price.
Right. Interesting observations, Jean-Francois. It all comes back down to visibility and making sure that the visibility of your hotel stands out from the thousands and thousands of other hotels that are listed on OTAs, and certainly strategic alignment of where your hotel sits on a page is one of the ways that hotels can optimize their conversions online. Thank you very much for sharing your insights with us today. We appreciate you coming to VTV and sharing those with our audiences, and we look forward to having you on our next episode.
Thank you very much, Sean.
To all the viewers out there, be sure to post your comments on this episode of VTV and subscribe to our feed to receive more valuable insights from industry experts.